Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to The Secret Place with me, Stephanie Bennett. I am so glad you're here, and welcome to January 2025. I cannot believe that it is 2025. Oh my goodness. Well, as I told you all in the new intro, I'll be sharing the first few weeks of the year about from a book that hasn't been published yet. That's because it's my new book. And I will be telling you more about that as we go along. I'll be sharing the name of the book. I'll share the cover as it all comes out. I'll be sharing about it. But in the meantime, when it's still in finished manuscript state, I'd like to share a little bit with you from that and tell you about it as we go along. Well, anyway, in the meantime, I was rereading a book by Annie Dillard. I think you probably know her name. You who love reading probably know the name Annie Dillard, great author. And she tells the story of these British explorers. You may have read about the polar expeditions of the 1800s and so in the early 1900s. Anyway, these expeditions, men who really braved the Northwest Passage to get to the Arctic Circle. So the Royal Navy's explorers never made it to the pole. And although they were well equipped with all kinds of things like auxiliary steam engines and extra coal, they died. They all died. They never made it. It was sad to hear about that. But the reason why it struck me as worthy of attention is because when the rescue teams recovered the frozen bodies and the skeletons of these men who were on the ship and who were in clusters and small expeditions, they found them all in full military regalia, each of them carrying ornate Victorian sterling silver flatware, the kind that had their own initial on it or their insignia. And these men all had these things in their pockets, these spoons in their pockets that I was shocked about that. I thought these bright, brave, grown-up men died clinging to things that could never save them. And it occurred to me that this is so similar to our relationship goals. You know, like when we cling to our, whatever, you fill in the blank, we cling to our pet peeves, we cling to our own ways of doing things, and we let the marriage or the friendship or the family relationship slip away, and we die with spoons in our pockets. Well, anyway, today's snippet of my soon-to-be published book involves this matter of clinging to our conveniences instead of clinging to each other. So I'd like to read just a couple of paragraphs from this chapter for you. Here we go, okay? We live in a media environment that is populated by social networks and algorithms that radically readjust our relational context, upending the rhythm that we need to flourish relationally. Although our personal mobile media are helpful in many ways, over-dependence on them crowds out essential practices, such as paying attention to one another, listening, eye contact, especially eye contact, with just looking at someone in the eye, and touch. All of these things are so important, and they're all things that we've talked about here in The Secret Place when we talk about communication skills, when we talk about faith, communication, and culture. Well, these digital devices allow us to continue to connect with each other at great distances, but they can separate us from more personal contact with those we love. That's the end of the quote from my book. And again, in light of that, I was reading an interview with the CEO of Apple. He's not so new anymore, but Tim Cook, Tim Cox, I should say. Wait a second, is it Tim Cook or Tim Cox? You'll look it up, will you? The CEO at Apple, he was talking about the iPhone and the problem with distractibility. So when the interviewer asked him how the company, or if they were trying to do something about that at Apple, here's what he said. He said he hoped that people would discipline themselves and be aware that too much time concentrating on the screen is a problem. Did you hear that? I mean, I couldn't help smiling at that response. I spoke right to the screen as I was listening. I said, really? Really, Mr. Cox? I think it's Cook, by the way. You develop a tool with such addictive properties and you expect the public to figure it out? That bothers me. That bothers me. It's like I am all for entrepreneurship and small businesses and businesses growing and developing, and I just think when you're putting that second over people's, I don't know. Anyway, chatting via text may help us exchange quick bits of information, but the brevity and missing nonverbal communication cues make these tools insufficient to develop, to grow, and to really maintain our primary relationships. I mean, receiving a text message from my husband upon his airport arrival is not the same as greeting him, hugging him, sitting down together for coffee and looking into each other's eyes as we converse about all the things that happened when we were apart from one another. You know, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for those quick texts and quick messages. But it's just not enough to maintain a healthy, life-giving relationship. And I think you know that. All this to say, we not only have to get back to the basics of our communication skills, of keeping the other in mind, and the simple things like eye contact, our tone, and touch. I think we've got to double down on these very basic skills. I mean, that is if we want to keep our closest relationships in tip-top shape. I know you do. You know I do. So let's make a pact and work on that together, continuing to pursue the things that are good, the things from above, the things that last, the things that are eternal, the relationships that are most precious to us. Thanks. This is Dr. Stephanie Bennett from The Secret Place. I'm glad you're here. Leave me a comment or a question and we'll get to know each other better. See you next time. Bye-bye.